What is shaken, Internet? This is Salt bringing you the How to Tank for Dummies Hellfire High Council LFR guide. The Hellfire High Council is the first boss in the Halls of Blood instance of the Hellfire Citadel raid. This guide will cover the trash up to the boss and the boss itself, focusing on tank mechanics but giving a brief overview of the fight as well. For those of you in queue or already in the instance, a quick synopsis. One tank grabbed Dia the caster girl, and the other tank can take the other two, and preferably move Dia away from the others. Dia's tank should use cooldowns for Visage, and the other tank should watch their stacks of acidic wound and use cooldowns if it gets very high. Let the stacks fall off when Gertrog starts chasing after a DPS during Fell Rage by running away. During their ultimate attacks, avoid the ghost that will swoop through the darkness and get ready with big cooldowns later in the fight, as you'll be taking lots of extra damage and might even have less max health. Now first up is the trash. There's only a pack or two before the boss, but the mini-boss Grogra, yeah that's right, is a doozy. You can skip this boss, but it's unlikely that all of the LFR raiders will actually make it past unseen. Now, Grogra casts Bad Breath, which is a very damaging move that puts a debuff on you, making the next Bad Breath do 3 times as much damage. You should swap tanks whenever Bad Breath happens to avoid taking major damage. Grogra does some other moves where she'll jump to random players and blow people up. This doesn't matter that much in LFR, but you should spread out when there are circles around everyone, and you should stack up when a raider gets a big arrow over their head to minimize damage. None of those moves really matter nearly as much as Bad Breath, though. Make sure to face Grogra away from the raid, and especially the other tank, and swap tanks every time he/she breathes on you. Now, the council itself is a relatively complicated fight, in the fact that there are a ton of moves that bosses can dish out. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut to the chase and give you the overall strategy first. In LFR, you can just group all the bosses together to kill them quickly. The safest way to kill them is one by one, starting with Gertrog Bloodboil, then Jubathos, or however you say it, and then Dia the caster girl. Now, you don't have a lot of control over this beyond just marking them, so assume this will go out the window in LFR. Now, an alternative strategy, and a more reliable one, is to pull Dia away from the others, since she has less health and is best not to kill her until the end. If you want to do this, make sure to coordinate with the other tank to make sure she gets pulled away. So the council has these 3 bosses. Gertrog and Jubatois are melee guys that should be tanked by one of the tanks. Dia is a caster that should be taken by another tank. There's technically no tank swapping necessary in the entire fight, but Gertrog can cause problems without any swapping. Now each boss has an individual health pool and can die at any time. When the bosses get low on health, around 30% or so, they go into super mode and start doing a new move each. This means that you really only want one boss to hit 30% at a time, kill that one, then have the next hit 30%, kill that one, then have the last hit 30% and kill it. Don't expect that to happen in LFR, but it's not the end of the world if they all switch to final mode at once. Now, in addition to all this, the bosses will do ultimate moves every minute or so. First, Dia will cover the area in darkness and send some ghosts out. Watch for the ghosts around the edge of the arena when it goes dark and move out of their way if they're headed towards you. Next, Jubatois will disappear and leave lots of clones of himself. They all do similar moves, but weaker, although overall they'll do more damage than just Jubilee did. After you kill them, he'll come back. Finally, Gertrog will start jumping around like a crazy man. Not much to say about this one. So now you know generally what's going to happen in the fight. 3 guys, 1 tank on Dia, the other on the other guys. Ultimate moves about every minute where you avoid ghosts, kill clones, and watch Gertrog jump around. Now, let's talk about the bosses individually. First, let's start with Dia. Dia will generally just hit her tank with a Void Bolt, which can be interrupted. Now, the more worrisome move is Nightmare Visage, which deals lots of damage to her tank. Use a cooldown for this one, as it hurts quite a bit. The only other thing Dia does is Mark of the Necromancer, which is just a DOT that jumps around. This is more of a healer thing to deal with, but just know that the DOT gets stronger the longer you have it on you. Now, if you're taking a Visage to the face and have a red mark DOT, brace yourself. Now, Dia will also periodically drop Void Pools down on the people with that mark, removing the debuff and dropping a little pool. This just means that you should watch your feet for bad puddles and move when necessary. Now, when Dia hits 30% health, she will immediately drop pools on everyone with the mark and then recast the mark on half of the raid. Good news, no more new pools after this point. Bad news, everyone in the raid is basically going to have the DOT on them for the rest of the fight. Now, Jumbo is a bit simpler. He has 2 moves, Fellstorm, which does damage to everyone and you don't really care about, and throwing his sword. Just don't stand in front of him when he goes to throw it and you'll be fine. Now when the Jupester reaches 30% health, he will start doing random damage to half the raid every so often. This will keep happening for the entirety of the rest of the fight, and will continue doing more and more damage as the fight goes on. There's nothing you can do about it, so moving on. Gertrog basically has two moves that you care about. First, his melee strikes will apply acidic wounds, which is a stacking armor removal debuff on you. This can get outrageous if you're not swapping tanks, but you shouldn't need to thanks to Fell Rage. Fell Rage is the other move where Gertrog gets really mad at random raiders. He'll charge them for a few seconds. This is where you get a respite from stacks on acidic wound, so don't chase him down. You can't tank him right now during this anyway, so you might as well just stay put. Now by the time he comes back, your stacks should be nearly gone. If they're not completely gone, try to run away from him until they're all gone, or do anything you can to dodge an attack or two. Worst case scenario, ask the other tank to taunt off of you for a few moments. Otherwise, Gertrog will do random damage to random players, but that's none of your concern. When he hits 30%, he'll start debuffing raiders with a debuff that cuts max health off. This is very, very, very bad as a tank, so just hope this doesn't hit you very much before he dies. So that covers pretty much everything in the fight. First, let's recap. One tank on Dia, use cooldowns on Visage. One tank on Jubs and Gertrog, use cooldowns on high stacks of acidic wound, and watch for Jubman throwing his weapon around. Watch for ghosts and mirror images every minute or so. Now there are two distinct strategies here. First, normal LFR craziness. All the bosses will be tanked together in the center of the arena, and just AoE down. If this is the case, Dia will hit 30% first, and lots of DOTs are going to go out. Also, there will be lots of bad purple pools everywhere. Try to move the bosses away from the pools, and watch when Dia hits 30%, as healers are going to be whining pretty hardcore, and you might be on your own for a little bit. Now the next hurdle is when Jubert and Gertog hit 30%, probably shortly one after another. There will be lots of extra damage and cutting of max health here, so get ready with big cooldowns. It's kind of frantic and crazy, but this is the strategy I expect most LFRs to go with after the first couple of weeks. Now, the last problem with this tactic is that Gertrog's stack of acidic wounds likely will never go away because everyone's really close to you. Now, if this happens, be sure to swap tanks during Fell Rage so that each tank can take a few stacks of acidic wounds. It's pretty easy if you're all clumped together anyway. Now, the other option would be to pull Dia away from the main group. Mark Gertrog with a skull and have one tank pull Dia away. This means she won't die so fast, and you'll be able to kill Gertrog and Jumarino separately. This just reverses the hurdles, with Gertrog and Jub hitting 30% at different times. This will take a bit longer since Dia won't be as low when you kill these guys, but there will likely be less overall damage going on, so this will be easier on your raid. Now the choice is yours really. Leaving Dia in is more dangerous but faster, but I really suggest pulling Dia out unless people are yelling at you, as that's kind of a mandatory strategy in other modes of raiding. It's good practice, and if they do yell at you, you can just blame them when you wipe. Now that pretty much covers the entire fight. As I said, the main difference in other modes of raiding is that you have to pull Dia out, as she makes the other bosses invincible when she's near them. Otherwise, everything just hurts a lot more and matters a lot more. I hope you've enjoyed this guide for Dummies. If you'd like to see some more Hellfire Citadel guides, click on the annotation in the top left of the video now, or in the description below. Please like, favorite, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and, as always, you keep it salty, Internet.